Tristan Taylor is one of those Yu-Gi-Oh characters who is always there, yet somehow barely gets to matter. He stands next to Yugi. He supports Joey. He worries about Taya. He reacts to Kaiba. He gets pulled into almost every major arc in Duel Monsters, from Duelist Kingdom to Battle City to the virtual world, and yet by the time people remember the original friend group, Tristan is usually the last one they talk about. And that is strange, because the idea of Tristan is actually strong. He is the normal guy in a show full of ancient spirits, billionaire teenagers, magical card games, soul-stealing villains, Egyptian gods, and people who treat a children's card game like international warfare. Tristan could have been the audience's grounded point of view. He could have been the character who keeps the group human. He could have been Joey's emotional anchor, Yugi's physical protector, or the one friend who grows without needing to become a great duelist. Instead, the show slowly turns him into the guy who says something obvious, gets confused, chases after Serenity, or stands in the background while everyone else has the real emotional material. That is why Tristan feels wasted. The problem is not that he never becomes a top duelist. The show already has enough duelists. The problem is that Yu-Gi-Oh! Never fully commits to what Tristan could mean outside of dueling. At the beginning, Tristan actually has more edge than people remember. He is not just some random goofy friend. In the early version of the group, he and Joey are rougher kids. They are not clean heroic sidekicks yet. They start as troublemakers around Yugi, and part of Yugi's early emotional victory is that he earns real friends out of people who once looked down on him. That matters because Tristan is part of the proof that Yugi changes people. Yugi is small, quiet, and socially weak at the start. Joey and Tristan are louder, tougher, and more physical. When they become his friends, the show is saying Yugi's strength is not normal strength. He does not win people over by being intimidating. He wins them over because he has sincerity. He has loyalty. He has something people want to protect. Tristan fits that perfectly. He is the kind of friend Yugi would never have been able to force into his life. Tristan chooses to stand beside him, and early on, that makes Tristan valuable. He gives the group a physical presence. Joey is emotional and reckless. Taya is supportive and moral. Yugi is the heart. Tristan is supposed to be the practical guy, the one who can step in when things become less about cards and more about danger. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a funny problem where everything becomes a duel eventually. Even situations where a normal person would just run, call the police, or punch somebody. That is where Tristan could have been useful. He could have been the character who reminds the audience that these situations are insane. He could have handled the parts of the story where dueling is not enough, and the show almost does this sometimes. Tristan is protective. He cares about his friends. He is especially tied to Joey, and that friendship should have been one of the emotional foundations of the series. Joey's whole journey is about proving himself. He starts as a street kid with no money, no status, and no respect in the dueling world. Tristan knew him before any of that. He knew Joey before Duelist Kingdom, before Red Eyes, before Battle City, before Joey started standing across from world-class duelists and somehow surviving. That gives Tristan a special position. Yugi sees Joey become a hero. Kaiba sees Joey as an annoyance. Mai sees Joey grow into someone worth respecting. Serenity sees the brother who sacrifices for her. But Tristan should be the guy who remembers Joey when he was just Joey Wheeler, the loud kid who got into fights and acted tougher than he felt. There was so much more the show could have done with that. Imagine if Tristan had struggled with Joey becoming important. Not in a villainous way, and not because he hated him. More because Joey starts moving into a world Tristan cannot enter. Joey becomes a duelist. Joey gets rivals. Joey gets respect from people like Mai and Yugi. Joey gets humiliated by Kaiba, yet even that humiliation proves he is part of the bigger game. Tristan is still standing outside the arena. That could have created a strong emotional conflict. Tristan supports Joey, but he also feels left behind. His best friend is becoming someone else. The card game gives Joey a future, an identity, and a place to prove his courage. Tristan has courage too, but the show rarely gives him a place to use it. That is the wasted story sitting right inside the character. Tristan could have represented the friend who does not have a special destiny. Yugi has the Millennium Puzzle. Joey has his underdog dueling journey. Taya has her emotional bond with Yugi and her role as the group's conscience. Bakura has the Millennium Ring and the entire darkness inside him. Kaiba has money, obsession, And the Blue Eyes White Dragon, Tristan has loyalty. That sounds small, but it could have been powerful if the show respected it. In a series like Yu-Gi-Oh!, loyalty is not just cheering from the sidelines. People lose their souls. Friends get trapped in shadow games. Families are threatened. Villains attack people through fear, memory, guilt, and weakness. A character who has no magic and no elite deck yet still refuses to leave can be meaningful. Tristan should have been the guy who proves that ordinary loyalty still counts in a supernatural story. Instead, Duel Monsters often treats ordinary loyalty as background noise. The friends cheer. They gasp. They explain obvious things. They tell Yugi he can do it. That has value, especially in a show where friendship is one of the main forces of the story. But after a while, Tristan stops feeling like a person with his own inner life and starts feeling like part of the audience sitting inside the episode. The most obvious example of this is how little the show cares about giving him a real direction. Joey wants to become a better duelist and help Serenity. Yugi wants to understand the spirit of the puzzle and face the darkness connected to ancient Egypt. Kaiba wants to defeat Yugi and prove his worldview correct. Taya wants to support Yugi and has her own dreams outside the group, even if the show does not always develop them deeply. Bakura is a walking disaster with a villain living inside him. Tristan just stays around. The Serenity Crush gives him something to do, but it also makes the problem worse. His interest in Serenity could have revealed a more mature side of him. It could have forced him to confront the difference between caring about someone and competing for her attention. It could have created a real friendship with Duke Devlin, because both of them are chasing the same girl and both of them look ridiculous doing it. Most of the time, though, it becomes comedy. Tristan likes Serenity. Duke likes Serenity. They bicker. Serenity remains sweet and mostly unaware. Joey gets protective. The joke repeats. That is not character development. That is a holding pattern. The frustrating part is that Tristan being awkward around Serenity could have worked if it exposed something deeper. Maybe Tristan is used to being the tough friend, and Serenity brings out a softer insecurity in him. Maybe he wants to prove he is more than Joey's sidekick. Maybe he sees Serenity as someone who believes he can be gentle, and that matters because he has always been treated like the muscle of the group. The pieces are there. The show just does not build them into anything strong. The virtual world arc makes this even clearer. Tristan gets one of the strangest fates in the entire series when his body is taken and his mind ends up inside a mechanical monkey. It is memorable, sure, but memorable for the wrong reason. Instead of using a filler arc to give Tristan more depth, the show turns him into a joke. That arc could have been perfect for him. The virtual world separates the characters, throws them into artificial environments, and forces them to face enemies outside the normal tournament structure. Since it is not part of the manga's main story, the anime had room to experiment. Tristan could have gotten a serious duel. He could have been forced to win without being naturally talented. He could have shown that he pays attention even when he is standing on the sidelines. That would have been a great direction for him. He does not need to beat Kaiba or duel Merrick. He does not need to suddenly become a secret genius. But let him win one duel through observation. Let him notice patterns because he has watched Yugi and Joey for so long. Let him admit he is scared because he knows he is not built for this world, and let him fight anyway. That would have made Tristan's loyalty active. Instead, the show often uses him as proof that the stakes are dangerous by making him vulnerable, trapped, or silly. That can work once or twice. Over time, it tells the audience not to take him seriously. And that damages the original group dynamic. The best version of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not only about cards, it is about lonely kids finding a tribe. Yugi was alone. Joey had a rough home life and carried shame beneath all his noise. Taya wanted something bigger than her normal life. Bakura looked innocent while carrying ancient evil. Even Kaiba, although he keeps himself separate, is shaped by trauma and obsession. Tristan should have completed that emotional picture. He should have been the friend who seems simple at first, until you realize he is the one trying to keep everyone together while the others are pulled into destiny. That is a real role. There is also a missed contrast between Tristan and Joey. They both come from the same side of Yugi's life. They are the rough friends who become loyal. But Joey gets transformed by dueling. Tristan does not. That difference could have said something interesting about growing up. Sometimes your best friend finds the thing that changes his life before you find yours. That can be painful. You still love him. You still cheer for him. You still want him to win. Yet every victory reminds you that he has a path and you are still figuring out yours. Yu-Gi-Oh! Never really lets Tristan feel that. He is almost too loyal to be human sometimes. He reacts, supports, complains, and jokes, but he rarely gets the private moment where the audience sees what all of this costs him. Even one scene could have changed him. Picture Tristan watching Joey duel in Battle City, realizing Joey has become brave in a way people can actually see. Joey is still goofy. He is still reckless. He still makes mistakes. But when he duels, the whole arena has to acknowledge him. Tristan has been brave too. He has followed his friends through danger again and again. Nobody ranks that. Nobody puts that on a scoreboard. That would have been a strong human beat. It would also have helped Joey. A serious Tristan scene could have reminded the audience where Joey came from. Joey's rise means more when someone from his old life is there to measure it. Tristan should be the witness to Joey's growth, and Joey should be the reminder of Tristan's insecurity. Their friendship could have carried more weight than the show gives it. Instead, Joey gets most of the emotional material, and Tristan becomes the guy beside him. The same thing happens with Yugi. Tristan's friendship with Yugi should mean more because Tristan once belonged to the world that made Yugi feel weak. When Tristan protects Yugi, it is not random friendship. It is a reversal of who they used to be. He goes from someone who could have intimidated Yugi to someone who stands in front of him. That kind of friendship has dramatic power. A better version of the show would use Tristan whenever Yugi's world becomes physically dangerous. When villains cheat, threaten, kidnap, or manipulate, Tristan should be the first one trying to pull the situation back into the real world. He should be the guy saying, "Enough. We are getting him out of here. He might fail, because this is Yu-Gi-Oh! And the card game always wins. But the attempt would define him. He would become the friend who refuses to accept the rules of the villains." That is much more interesting than making him confused in the background. His lack of dueling skill could also have been a strength. Almost every major character in Duel Monsters expresses themselves through cards. Yugi's deck reflects trust, balance, and hidden strength. Joey's deck reflects luck, grit, and growth. Kaiba's deck reflects power and control. Mai's deck reflects independence and performance. Pegasus turns dueling into theater. Merrick turns it into punishment. Tristan having no serious deck could mean he has to express himself another way. Maybe he becomes the tactical support. Maybe he studies opponents outside the duel. Maybe he notices cheating. Maybe he helps protect the group from traps, while Yugi and Joey are focused on the cards. Maybe he becomes good at reading people instead of reading hands. That would fit him. Tristan is often treated as blunt, but blunt characters can be useful because they cut through the nonsense. In a show full of dramatic speeches and ancient destiny, someone who says the simple truth can be refreshing. He could have been the guy who calls Kaiba insane more directly. The guy who points out how absurd Pegasus's island is. The guy who looks at Merrick's cult behavior and reacts like a normal human being. That normal reaction matters because Yu-Gi-Oh! Gets so heightened that the audience sometimes needs someone to ground the danger. Taya does some of that, but Taya's role is usually emotional and moral. Tristan's could have been practical and protective. Together, they could have made the non-dueling side of the group feel complete. The show also misses the chance to give Tristan a real personal enemy. Yugi has many. Joey has several. Kaiba creates his own enemies just by walking into a room. Tristan rarely has anyone who tests him personally. That is part of why he stays flat. A character often becomes clear when someone pressures his weakness. Tristan's weakness could have been feeling useless. Give him an enemy who understands that. Someone who mocks him for being the friend with no powers, no deck, no destiny, no reason to be there. That would cut deeper than another joke about him being dumb or jealous. It would force him to answer the question the audience quietly asks, why is Tristan here? The answer should be simple. He is there because he chooses to be. That choice deserves more respect than the show gives it. In a story full of chosen ones, ancient spirits, rare cards, and inherited trauma, Tristan could have represented chosen loyalty. Nobody forces him to stand with Yugi. No ancient item picks him. No tournament ranking validates him. No prophecy needs him. He stays anyway. That is the version of Tristan the show almost had. The tragedy of Tristan as a character is that he means something in theory, but the series rarely lets him mean it in practice. He is the ordinary friend in an extraordinary story. He is the non-dualist in a dueling world. He is the guy who knew Joey before Joey became a hero. He is the former rough kid who becomes one of Yugi's protectors. He is proof that friendship in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is supposed to exist outside the cards. That could have made him one of the most relatable characters in Duel Monsters. A lot of people are not Yugi. They are not secretly chosen. They are not Kaiba with a billion-dollar company. They are not Joey with a dramatic underdog arc. Many people are Tristan. They are close to important people. They support someone else's dream. They show up even when nobody gives them a spotlight. They are part of the story, but they sometimes wonder if the story would change without them. That is a painfully real place for a character to live. Yu-Gi-Oh! Just does not sit with it long enough. By the end, Tristan remains likable. He is still part of the group, and the show would feel wrong without him. That counts for something. A wasted character is not always a bad character. Sometimes it is a character with a good foundation who gets trapped in the easiest version of himself. Tristan's easiest version is simple. Loyal, loud, goofy, jealous, confused. The better version was sitting right there. Loyal, insecure, protective, ordinary, and quietly afraid of being left behind. That Tristan could have added a different kind of strength to Duel Monsters. He could have shown that friendship is not only about believing in the person holding the cards. Sometimes it is about standing beside them when you have no card to play at all. And for a show that talks so much about friendship, that should have mattered a lot more.